Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Open University.
Welcome to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University online video session. Today again we are in continuation with Engm-308, the paper of study of essays, where we had already initiated unit number 5, and today we are going to complete the second part of unit 5, the essay of Roland Barthes, which is about from work to text. So let's start our work. And let us understand the last part, the core part, the ending part of the essay of Roland Barthes. You can see over here the study of essay from work to text by Roland Barthes. I am in front of you, Dr. Ushma A. Bhatt from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. Let's start our work. Look, we had already discussed about the form of the essay, as well as we discussed the works of the essay and the works of Roland Barthes. How was his role and what was his contribution in the field of literature, his period of time, his date of birth. All these things were already discussed in the previous session. So now onwards we are going to focus on the only core part of the essay from work to text. Even the beginning part of the essay is also discussed in the previous session. So we have to focus on the 7 propositions of understanding of the essay, that is method, genre, signs, plurality, filiation, reading and pleasure, as well as we are going to discuss the close understanding of the topic, the essay from work to text, the core part of the essay. So let us start the core part first, and then we shall go for the propositions of the essay. The close understanding of essay from work to text. The work's meaning and construction were influenced by the forces of race and history. This is a universal truth. If you think about any particular work, any work of literature or any work, if you are supposed to think of that work, naturally you will think about the period of time when the work has been written, when the work was written. And at the same time, simultaneously, you will think about the history of that work, or you will think about the conditions of the period of time when that particular work is written. This happens naturally. It is merely the thing which is happening in the texts in literature is mentioned by Roland Barthes in this essay. He discussed the efforts made by traditional criticism to understand works as belonging to a greater tradition. Look, he wanted to say over here that any particular work of art could be studied with the help of the traditional criticism, and when that particular work is studied, it reaches at the greater tradition. It shows the higher effect. It shows that the work is a valuable one. That's what he wanted to say. I think you are clear about it. Finally, then he says he identified certain stages of developing traditions. Look, how he did that. He talked about from work to text. He talked about intertextuality. He talked about the pleasure that is gained from the work. He talked about the decentering of the work. He talked about the meanings and meanings of the work. And finally, everyone knows that Roland Barthes is the great person who had given us the theory of the post-structuralism. So all these things are mentioned over here in these 2 lines, red line and green line. Red line is merely the discussion about the traditional past criticism which could be implemented on any work, and the green line says that it could be identified with different stages of developing tradition. Any particular theory could be implemented on a particular work of art. That is what he wanted to say over here. This style of critique was practiced by F.R. Lewis, Raymond Williams, and many more other. Dickens, Lawrence, Foster. We can name pretty long list. There could be several literary great persons, and you can name plenty, a lot of people over here right now. When you talk about Roland Barthes' implementation of theory on the work, because most of the critics who had been either they were the Western critics or they were the critics of the ancient period of time, medieval period of time, modern period of time, they are having this technique, this habit of putting the theory on a particular work and study that work with critical perspective. It is a natural thing about criticism. That is what is told over here by Roland Barthes. Barthes' the biggest achievement was attributing the author's experiences, viewpoints and goals. Look, his main focus is on the author's ideology, author's note, author's ideas, his notions, his narrations, and that is why he could have studied the work of art with a view to read the characters as if they were the mouthpieces of the author, as if they were the representatives of the author's ideology. That is what is Roland Barthes' idea seems to be over here. He says that from work to text means work itself plays the big role in the field of literature, and text stays or stands as an allegory. Text itself stays or stands as an allegory of the work. It is same like the biographical school of criticism. Look, when we think about the critical perspective, when you think about criticism, obviously we have to think about different schools. The school formalism school, formalistic school, the school of the Russian school criticism, the Marxist school criticism, historical implementation on the work and on the text, and romantic criticism. In the same way, here we can implement Roland Barthes' ideology with biographical school of criticism. Biography in the sense, you know that it is about a particular work, and the work could be studied with a view to author's ideology. Same could be done over here when he has been writing his ideas in this essay from work to text, from author to his ideology. You can understand this particular from work to text essay with one single important key factor. That's what I am giving you, from author to his ideology. You can understand that for your personal understanding. You can write it also in the answer. Look, a text cannot be linked to a single or multiple texts, though there is a concept of intertextuality. Of course, we cannot genuinely compare or link the texts, though they are similar. As for example, if I give you the example of Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, or his Oliver Twist, or his David Copperfield, or his Nicholas Nickleby, or his Great Expectation, or his Pickwick Papers, or his any other work, we can't implement or we can't link all the works of Charles Dickens. In fact, we know that all these multiple texts are having the concept of intertextuality. Means there would be many similarities. Intertextuality, text within the text, or the similar kind of data found from one text as well as in another text also. Even you can do the similarities, dissimilarities, comparison, the contrast, opposition, contradiction, everything can happen. But at the same time, we can't link the texts. That's what Roland Barthes says over here. Again, he says the historical, biographical or other texts in context with a specific text. Look, he means to say that whenever you think about any particular work of art, any particular text, you are going to think about the historical perspective, the biographical perspective, the context in which the text is written. As for example, when we think about Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travel, obviously we shall think about, the reader would think about the history, the period of time, what happened during Jonathan Swift's period of time, what was the history, what was the political condition of Great Britain, why he had written certain kind of allegorical kind of a novel. So these things are known as historical and biographical perspective on other texts in context with the main text. The author participates in a reading of his or her text as a guest and as one of the readers of the text. When there is a matter of the theory of from work to text, the essay of Roland Barthes deals with this ideology that author becomes a mere guest as per his ideology. Author doesn't play the role of the writer, neither he plays the role of the reader, but he is merely the guest who comes, visits, watches everything and goes away. That is what Roland Barthes wanted to say over here. Why he said like this? Because he means to say that author merely plays the role of a biographical writer. He merely presents the data, contributes the data. There isn't any space for him to communicate, to comment or compliment his work of art. An honest reading is more worth than the critic reading. Look, there is a saying that when a person is reading the text, if he is reading honestly, without any bias, without any prejudices, without any comments or compliments or criticism, then it would be 100% worth, 100% more useful, the most useful than the critical reading even. That is what is said. Reading with honesty, in the sense genuine reader, the genuine reader plays the role in the essay of from work to text. That is what is said over here. There is a role, important role, a significant role in the essay of from work to text when you are trying to think about the reader and what is his role. It should be, she should be a genuine reader. Again, more information is given about the reader. The reader is connected with the text just like the author is connected with the meaning to be gained. The reader honestly is connected with the text. As for example, if you are reading the parts, the several parts of Tarzan, and when you read the stories of Tarzan and you are attached with him and you go into the unknown islands where Tarzan had been passing his time in the jungles of Sahara in Africa, and you reach with him and move over there, and whatever the things and visualizations and ideas and presentations and the pictures, panorama that happens in your mind is very much important as a reader. That is what is said over here. The reader is connected with the text just like the author is connected with the meaning to be gained. The text produced a distinct kind of pleasure which is free of separation. Look, of course, the reader, when he, as I have given you the example of the stories, adventure stories of Tarzan, if you are reading the stories of Tarzan and you go to the jungles of Sahara in Africa, and when you have been reading all these stories at the same time, what happens in your mind? Do you find pleasure? Do you find adventurous element? Do you feel that I just want to move over there in those places where Tarzan had moved? That is what is necessary as per Roland Barthes. He means to say that the text produced a distinct kind of pleasure. text genuinely creates the pleasure, but the reader should feel that pleasure. If the reader is reading without any kind of pressure, or without any kind of gaining the knowledge, without any kind of specific purpose, then he or she is naturally connected with that reading source, with that data, which is free of separation. It is natural, it is but obvious, and it is totally prolific, totally with natural tendency, totally with natural proclivity. That is what Roland Barthes wanted to say over here, that naturalness is very much important. Barthes and Derrida, Jacques Derrida, his name is over here with Roland Barthes. Jacques Derrida, I think you know, he's the man of deconstruction who had given us the theory of structuralism, deconstruction, and Derrida is a very big name in the literary criticism. Barthes and Derrida meant that the reader is indulged in pleasure while reading the text, and thus the reader creates the meanings as well. When the reader reads the text with separation, free of separation, then genuinely he or she would create the meaning also. Both referred to as jouissance, means bliss or enjoyment. Look, jouissance. This is not jouissance, but it's jouissance. Jouissance is a French word, and it means entertainment. The book should be full of entertainment, enjoyment, the happiness, the pleasure must be gained, because pleasure, entertainment, enjoyment is the integral part, the most important core part of literature. That is what Roland Barthes and Derrida both were referring over here. There are 7 ideas, as we had discussed in the beginning of the session, that they were very much important. They were the propositions to create the essay. 7 ideas serve as the foundation for Barthes' distinction between the text and the work. How could you find that this particular is the work and this particular could be considered as the text? Then he says that if you study the method, if you study the genre, the signs, the plurality, filiation, reading, and pleasure, if all these 7 kinds of ideas, 7 propositions are very well and clearly mentioned, then the text and work could be differentiated. So firstly, let us talk about method. He elaborated here the example of Lacan, that there is a difference between reality is displayed and real is demonstrated. Look, he has very beautifully given the example of Lacan. He means that work is seen and held in hand, and text is a process of demonstration which is held in language. So he means to say that work is like reality, which could be seen and displayed, while the text is demonstrated, means text is written in language, and text could be found or felt rather than display. That is what is the difference between the text and the work as per Roland Barthes. Then finally he talked about genre. A text constitutes a subversive force with regard to old classification. Look, as for example, if you attach the genre with the text, Ramayana, the epic, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the poetry, the long poem, the narrative poem. So how would you differentiate the work with its genre? That becomes very much important. As for example, here he had given the example of Alexander Pope, an essayist, a novelist, a dramatist, or a playwright. For which genre you would name him as, or you will make him popular. Of course, it happens genuinely that when you are going to find the important work, very popular work, how would you present that work in the audience? Whether you would present that work with a view to genre, or are you going to present that work with a particular person's name, or with which particular genre, that becomes the question. As for example, there are small and short stories also from Ramayana. They are extricated and they are presented uh, in different storybooks. So what would you do at that time? Are you going to attach the genre with the Ramayana as the epic, or you will take the short stories, the small anecdotes and small incidents from the big epic? What is your role when you try to find the genre? It becomes very much important. Then there is sign. Sign, as you know, sign is a word, signifier and signified. All these three words are always discussed whenever we come across these three words: sign, signifier and signified. Here Roland Barthes wanted to say from work to text, the essay. Here he means to say that a text can be approached in reaction to sign. Look, he wishes to say that text could be represented as sign and the work is indicated as signified. Thus it represents as institutional category of the civilization of sign. He means to say that the whole work could be claimed as a signified one, and the text on the other hand is dilatory. Means work is moderately symbolic, work is artificial, and text is radically symbolic, text is organic. Work has the metaphor while the text itself is metaphor. Plurality, the text is plural and it achieves an irreducible plurality. Look, whenever you study the text, it happens that the text has plural forms. The text has many more versions. The text has many more answers. The text has many more different kinds of examples. It achieves an irreducible plurality. It allows interpretation other than exposition of meanings. Text deals with interpretations. It happens because when you read the text, you have different interpretation, and when your friend reads the text, his ideas would be quite different from you. So plurality depends on how different readers interpret it in different ways. Thus the text is plural. Text is plural means basically you can understand that text has many meanings, and all these meanings are generated by vernacular kind of readers. That is what he means to say over here. Text is plural in the sense text is as per the reader's understanding. Filiation. Roland Barthes says that literary science's principle is, there are two principles which are given by Roland Barthes. He said, respect the work. Another thing, he said, respect the author's intention behind the work. Thus, author is merely a guest because the work is in the center. The work becomes the main part, the core part of the understanding, and author's ideas and narrations and his objective, his purpose would be on the circumference as per Roland Barthes. Work is in the center. Text becomes the main message of the understanding. Work is in the center and text becomes the message. That's what you can understand. Finally, there are two things: reading and pleasure. Reading as the object of consumption. Look, when you read something, you gain something, and that reading and gaining becomes a part of consumption. Work is read as the process, the text is read as it is a part of creation. The text is created. Work is read as process and the text is created. The text cannot be consumed. Text is the language. Text is the part which could be implemented in the society. Can you consume it? Of course not. You can consume the work. Text removes the distance between reading and writing. Look, very clear difference is mentioned and given by Roland Barthes, that work is a main part, is a hard copy, hard bound copy, and the text is thing which happens in the society because of that reading of that work. That's what he means to say. Pleasure. Barthes means to say pleasure is passive and pleasure is bound to be one without separation. When you read the text, naturally you will gain the enjoyment, you will gain the bliss, you will gain the entertainment, and that entertainment itself is the pleasure. Text is a space of social utopia and seasons, as it is mentioned over here. It is about entertainment, enjoyment. So when you read the work, the pleasure is a by default factor which naturally comes when you read the work, and that text is a space of social utopia, means when you read the work, of course certain kind of societal awakening or societal natural didactic message that could be reached in the society, and that didactic message itself plays the role to deliver the message to the society, that plays the big role in understanding of the text. So text is a space of social utopia and work is generally for the seasons, that is gaining the entertainment. So we are ending our session over here. Good luck to you. God bless you.